What is going on, everybody? We got another week of a Dave and a Dan. It is week 9. This is where everybody says, oh, the season's flying. The weeks are flying. The weeks are flying when things aren't going your way. But around these parts, sniffs have kind of been going our way. And one of the best things about what's going on here, the best part about me just not being the haunted house operator on my own, is Dave sometimes can help refine things that I'm a little overzealous, a little over eager to really just put everything in. I texted him over the weekend. I go, you tell me, Dave, you tell me how Javonte Williams is not getting a minimum 20 carries. And he goes, I think it's pretty much guaranteed he's not getting 20 carries. And I said, can I get you down to 17? Can I take the alt 15, alt 17? He goes, I'll give you that. What does he end up with? 17 carries. Talked me off the deep sniffs, and he brought it back to a 17, and it ended up working out in my favor. Sometimes, if you keep too many yes men around, they're not going to talk you off those Javonte Williams 19-plus rushing attempts. So that's why we got Dave back for another week. You scoffed at the Cedric Tillman, Scoff No More, and that was one of many decent sniffs we had last week. So we're going to look to kind of build on that this week.
Absolutely. Two things. One, happy to talk you off that, but it may be time for you to start talking me off these J.K. Dobbins props, because that back-to-back weeks has not worked out in my favor. Two, I did not scoff at the Cedric Tillman prop. I scoffed at the data you were providing me. And at
the end, I was like, man, do you want to do J.K. Dobbins for 90 yards? You go, you're throwing Cedric Tillman out there for 50. We can do whatever we want around here.
Then I suppose I scoffed. Okay. My fault. I thought you were
scoff at everything. I'm scoffing at you right now. Don't worry about it.
Tillman was great, man. I didn't bet that ladder. I did, however, bet the anytime touchdown prop. I looked at the live odds screen we have over on OddsShopper, and if you just sign in for free, by the way, this isn't a plug because I know you use the tool anyway, and we put it up here.
I do.
But they'll actually show you where there's an edge in the green on some of those, and I went, oh, wow, there's a really big edge on FanDuel for Tillman this week. He was at plus 500, Andy, to score or something like that. So I was like, all right, there's an edge there. I'm just going to bet it based on where we have the other sharp sources. That's all it was. So I was there with you on Tillman. We took different paths to get there, and we had different props, but I would assume we both benefited from that one last week.
Well, that's pretty interesting because I believe that there's a similar bet. Now, typically I have a rule on my shows. I'm not betting touchdowns. I'm not betting goal scorers. I despise the fact that I can be correct about something and not be paid off because a guy gets tackled at the 1 Connor McDavid can have 3 assists in a game and I'm not hitting that goal over, yet he was dominating the game. He was productive. I was correct on his sniff of him being, a productive player in the game. But the goal and the touchdown typically are ones I don't blame people for going there. But I will say I find myself in that situation this week. Don't like touchdowns, and I wasn't going to talk about this until a little bit later, but I'm looking at a Taysom Hill touchdown in this New Orleans game. They're home against the dismal Carolina Panthers. That one might be in Carolina, but I know they're playing the Carolina Panthers. Yep. Yeah, okay. So that one's in Carolina, but obviously you see what their defense has been up to. Although, as I kind of thought, they held Javonte Williams to under his rushing total. That's why he had to just keep rushing and rushing and rushing. I'm not too concerned about that. That's more for Alvin Kamara. What I do know is that Kendre Miller, he injured his other hamstring, so now he's gone. If you look at the first couple games, the running back 2 on this Saints team was Taysom Hill. And then he got hurt, and then they rode Kamara. They were giving him 25 carries. They've started to pull back Kamara's workload a little bit, and that was going to Kendre Miller last week. Taysom Hill was already he got 4 or 5 carries and a few catches last week. I was a little worried because he was dealing with that rib injury, but he got through that game, and I assume another week of practice, he'll be at full health. I like him around the goal line for a team that obviously needs to score. We don't know how healthy Derek Carr is. He's going to play in this game, but is he at 100% health? We've seen the Saints in the past, albeit a different coaching staff, jog Carr off the field once they get into the red zone, and they just let Hill plow it forward. And I saw that, I believe on DraftKings, the price was considerably better than the other sites. I could be wrong about this. What do you think about this random, weird Taysom Hill sniff?
You know, it's funny. I pulled it up on the live odds screen, and I'm like, he must have looked at this. I don't know. But even if I disagreed with everything you just said, which I don't, but even if I did, I'd still bet this on DraftKings. Okay, so if you have a decent idea of what some of these sharp books are, you can be in good shape. Plus, the great thing about Pinnacle is they actually offer, not that I can bet on Pinnacle, right? Like, are you, but it gives us, it gives us a
It's
baseline.
the North Star, I heard. That Pinnacle's the North Star for what direction bets are heading, correct?
Yes, not for every sport. Like MLB player props, you could get yourself into trouble. Certain things, obviously game lines and stuff, yes. But certain props, yes. And they also offer no on touchdowns, which is interesting. But right now, they have Taysom Hill anytime touchdown at plus 177. DraftKings has it at plus 230. We have a 5% edge to the over. Now, I'm telling you this as somebody who uses this tool every single day. Now, for anyone that comes into the comments and go, oh, Taysom Hill didn't hit, doesn't matter. You'll learn eventually that it's not actually about whether it hits at plus 230 when you bet it one time, but over the course of many, many times when you're getting these plus EV spots, that's where you're going to start to realize the profits. What we're seeing here, though, is that the odds are much shorter than plus 230, the true odds. This has a 5% edge in the tool. I'm telling you right now, Andy, for me, as somebody who looks at this tool every day on touchdown props and everything, I don't remember the last time I've seen a 5% edge on the over for a anytime touchdown score. I mean that. But it's hold on, only on DraftKings. Only on DraftKings. That's very clear about this. Don't go bet it at plus 160 on Caesars and be like, well, wait, you say that there's no edge anymore. The plus 230 is where the edge is. Sorry, go ahead.
And if you want to complain, say, oh, it didn't hit, you can do that if Taysom Hill doesn't go over on his rushing yards, because that's another one that I'm giving. No Kendre Miller. Look at the amount of carries he was getting. Kamara, you have to. He's 30 years old. His touches have gone down a few. Jamal Williams is pure dust. As soon as Kendre Miller was healthy, they rolled him in there as the backup. Taysom Hill now a couple of weeks from the injury. He was getting carries in the first half. Then they were getting blown out. They kind of stopped using him. If this game is close or they have the lead, be prepared for some Taysom Hill. I gave this out on my Patreon last week. On Sunday morning, if just something hits me out of nowhere, I go, oh, by the way, I'm feeling the Taysom Hill rushing. He hit it last week, despite the fact he hardly got any second half work. So I'm going back to that Taysom Hill over on rushing. So if the touchdown doesn't hit, all right, you can give me a scoff. If they both don't hit, you can call me a prick. So that's not where I expected to open this episode. But when you brought up that touchdown, it was something. I never give out touchdowns, but I am going to be taking that one this weekend.
It's interesting to me, though, because if that's your kind of thought process, which I kind of understand, then you wouldn't ever bet like reception props either.
That's not true. It's like, for example, last night, I loved the Devontae Adams over on receptions. Why? There's no Alan Lazard to get those cheap, the chemistry oriented. Okay, we just need the first down. So those will kind of shift towards Adams. And I just thought he would be peppered with targets.
Yeah, but you're still
catches.
Dependent on someone to get him the ball, even if the volume of targets is there. So you could be like, hey, everything went right in the sense that he led the team in target share, but they were bad throws.
Oh, well, that would be contingent on somebody making mistakes. There can be zero mistakes made, and you cannot score a touchdown. You can have the great game. All the perfect passes were completed, but they decided to triple you like Calvin Johnson Vice style in the end zone. Now, Rashid Shaheed gets the touchdown on the other side. Speaking of which, I believe we're getting the return of not Chris Olave, but Derek Carr, which brings the return to relevance to Chris Olave. Is that something you looked at this week? Do you care at all about that? Because when you think about the pass catchers they have, he has to catch every single pass known to man. And we just saw Bo Nix throw all over that Carolina pass defense. You're talking about one main option. And if you think I'll never take a reception props, I may just be taking the over 5.5 at plus 110, which I think I saw before we started recording.
Yeah. And a lot, and Alvin Kamara is playing banged up right now. The guy's playing through a laundry list of ailments. So, yeah, I like it. I'll tell you what, Chris Olave last week with Spencer Rattler had 100+ yards, 14 targets in that game against the Chargers. Why wouldn't Derek Carr look to do the same thing? You kind of just alluded to it, but who else are you going to here? I mean, yeah, obviously Alvin Kamara is a mainstay in the passing game, but without Rashid Shaheed, in a tough matchup, you go, all right, well, this offense becomes a lot more one-dimensional. But against Carolina, does it actually matter? I don't think it does. Like Mason Tipton, Cedric Wilson, if he's even playing, Bub Means, they just don't have guys. They don't have anybody out there. Foster Moreau, Juwan Johnson. It should be the only reason that this doesn't play out the way we want is if like Carolina is so bad, so abysmal that they don't even need to throw in New Orleans. Like they just go up early like they did in week 1 in this same matchup and they destroy them. And because let's not forget, while they only have Chris Olave, Deontay Johnson's in Baltimore now. Adam Thielen, I'd be shocked if he ends up playing. Even if Jonathan Brooks returns, it'd be in limited fashion, and he's not going to move the needle anyway. Chuba Hubbard's good, but they got Bryce Young out there. Their defense is so bad, like worse even than the Saints, that would be the only way. It's just, hey, he's our guy, but how much did we need to go there? I would almost, Andy, rather go with the over on receiving yards. Yeah, because you could see Olave just have like a big first half on 3 receptions and have like 100 and a touchdown, and then they just run the ball. Just assuming that this plays to the spread, they're 7.5 point favorites.
Yeah, that definitely sounds correct for a game like that because, yeah, the more receptions you need. Yeah, like last night, I needed one more Davante Adams reception, just like most of the people out there, because I said the only guy I really am trusting in this game, don't make me force my picks. I picked the Jets, and then I went with the Davante Adams props pretty much across the board. I went
Adams touchdown.
This guy with his damn touchdowns. Well, whether it was you, whether it was me, whether you bet the receptions or you bet the over on receiving yards, or you bet the touchdown in the middle of the third quarter, you may have been one of those people out there. You may have put on your tinfoil hat and claimed yet again that it's rigged. It's rigged. A guy who's 32 and has a history of former concussions lands directly on his shoulder and head and is taken out of the game. Oh, it's rigged. The NFL put a call in. They absolutely put a call in with the Jets having the lead already because you, a random guy who lives in a town outside of Milwaukee, is 5 yards short of his Davante Adams prop. Absolutely. Oh, the tweets were flying. Now they're probably deleted. You got to use that way back machine to try to find who deleted what because they were all saying it. And then what happens? He comes back in the game and catches it for you. Now you're going to have to claim, no, because we were catching on to them, so they had to give us this one. They're playing the long rig game. It never ends with the tinfoil folk. But just admit, it was a tough night to be part of the rigged crowd. How about you just forget about that? Forget about the rigged crowd and just try to join the winning crowd.
It was just so good because I have the videos over on the Odd Shopper channel, and I always thank you for giving me this platform as well, getting some of your people over there, and I'm grateful for all of you guys. But so I had the video. We had a clean 5-0 sweep yesterday, which they're hard to come by, right? I just had, well, you know what it was? Because listen, last Sunday I had a bad Sunday. This was a good Thursday. You kind of like, okay, maybe we're getting back on track, and then you'll get smoked again Sunday. It's just how it works, right? Right when you think when things are starting to catch. But my wild read was just, give me under on Stroud passing. Give me over on Mixon rushing in that spot. Like it just without Diggs, without, give me under on Mike Williams receptions. It was plus 140 under 1.5 at Bet365. I was like, wait, what?
He
That's, the guy,
despises that guy.
right. And then let me just sprinkle on a Devontae. I think I had like a point 3/4 of a unit on that. And that was just the reason, and I wanted to talk to you about this, and maybe your audience will find this interesting too. The reason I do like touchdown props, if you're smart about it, is I think you and I love the buy low spots, right? Like on ladder plays, on alts and stuff, like, because you're getting those buy lows all the way up to like numbers that should never be there if odd things broke their way, but all of the underlying stats and volume would suggest that it's still there. That actually exists in touchdowns too, maybe to a slightly lesser degree. But when I looked and I go, oh, he's played 2 games with the Jets and he leads the team in red zone targets already in those 2 games. Okay, he's going to see some opportunities. And I love being able to look at not only red zone targets, but end zone targets as well. So you can do that. There's free sites, by the way, out there where you can look at those type of targets. Like you can't get as granular, but being able to look at end zone targets, end zone to me is more important than red zone, but still both valuable. I do think there are things like buy low where you can see it, Andy, and they go, well, this guy shouldn't be 3-1 to score. He's 5th in the league in red zone targets. He just hasn't gotten there yet.
Going back to what you said 2 weeks ago, which is what led us to try to take Sam Laporta, another sniff that came through for us last week.
He was the only one to have any receiving yards for Detroit. What a weird game.
It was so weird. Every time they got the ball, it was some sort of kick return, interception return. Every drive started on the 25-yard line in their opponent's territory. So
yeah, crazy.
That was a tough one, but we were still able to get it. And if I never hear National Tight Ends Day again, it will be too soon. It will be way too soon. Speaking of which, actually, this has nothing to do. I don't know if you dressed up as a tight end on Halloween.
What are you trying to say? Go ahead.
Did you go out with your kids?
Yeah, man. My 3-year-old, she'll be 4 in a few months. Like, she had a blast. So
she's not in the hospital, right? No needles in the Butterfinger?
Nothing, man. We were in good shape. Now, I made sure that when she went up to each house, she said, "Are there needles in here?" And everybody said no. So no, it was a good time. And no change though.
So there was change in this neighborhood, and according to the comments last week, when I was looking through, change happened to be the constant. Everybody was getting change in their local neighborhoods. So I guess that was the unlikely number one in terms of what people actually experienced. No needles or razors. But then how about this guy?
That's crazy.
This guy got Crest.
That's crazy.
The level of embarrassment I would have, unless you think they ran out of candy, were they such cool people they were just shoveling fistfuls into the kids' bins and buckets? So then they're like, oh, we have nothing left. Just grab the toothpaste upstairs.
I see what there's got to be something better though, right? Like, even if I ran out of candy, I think I'd be able. No, you know what? If I ran out of candy, I'm pivoting to the change. Like, I think you have to pivot to change. And I had explained to you last week that I really wasn't familiar with that. I think you have, don't you? Isn't that the answer? You run out of candy, you have to pivot to change?
Yes, but I'm so embarrassed. I think I would just give individual dollars. I'll take the loss for my shortcomings. I was thinking that too, man. I was thinking that too. You might have to go to the dollar. The dollar game would be solid. And plus, like, let's say you ran out at the end of the night. So maybe you only get like 15 extra kids. Just on pride alone, that 15, $20 is well spent, as opposed to being like shaking your hand with a couple quarters. I'm with you. It's a good call. There's 2 things. Number one, you could also put please request $1 at, and then put your Venmo name. And like, that will be your actual.
What do you think? These 6-year-olds have Venmo accounts, Andy?
That's correct. This is what my other plan was, that if I want to be like, I was sick of hearing the doorbell ring because I'm a piece of garbage. I want to put a bucket outside that says, please take one, and is empty, so that the people go up there and go, oh, those greedy bastards, they emptied
One of
it
the
out before we
assholes
got
took
here.
it.
So I get credit for actually being kind, and miscellaneous people who don't even exist take all of the blame.
Not
You
only,
want to
hold on,
talk about the Grinch?
not only do you get credit, you get sympathy.
Hey, it's called trick or treat. You want to know? Too many people choose treat. I'm a big trick guy, and I'm happy to trick them next year with that.
Yeah, it's
so,
a great. The idea though that you get credit, but also people go, the poor guy isn't home. He tried to do something nice. I bet he even had king size candy bars. And little do they know that you're just the biggest scumbag in the neighborhood.
Yeah, this guy seems so trustworthy. Let me try to link my sister up with this guy who's so kind to put out all those candy for the kids.
Man, you're on to something.
I'm going to go back to one of your guys in terms of the team that you support, who actually, they are better than I thought this year. I thought they were what I saw after like 4 weeks. I'm like, yeah, they're going to have good weeks and then random bad weeks, but they're starting to look like a good team. And that's your Philadelphia Eagles. You talked about loving buy and low. That's all I do. And this guy, he's on my list every single week since week 1 last year, because this is a classic case of let's put one guy at 80 yards and then let's put the other one at 55.5. Do I have some of your support, or is this one, because I got other ones, is this one, is Goddard coming back and maybe he won't have as many targets because he had just as many receptions as A.J. Brown last week. He obviously has the ability to go down the field vertically. I just think this 55.5 for Devontae Smith after putting up 70-something last week. They gave me mid-50s last week. I took it with a smile, and I'm just looking to do that again.
No problem at all. I like Devontae. I think Devontae's a little bit undervalued, honestly. It's a Jacksonville team that they're really terrible defensively, but their run defense isn't as bad. Now, you could just pummel him with Barkley, and then he breaks loose, right? Like, that's what they did against the Bengals. Run it. He's not doing much. And then towards the end, boom, Barkley's gone. Oh, you blink and he's got 100+ rushing yards. You know what I mean? Like that. He had 1 or 2 drives where he did everything outside of score because that was Jalen Hurts. But I think this is like, there's such a pass funnel defense that, again, the only thing that works against you here is that, say the Eagles go up early and Brian Thomas joins Christian Kirk because Kirk's out for the season. Gabe Davis is questionable. Brian Thomas Jr. is questionable. Those guys end up not playing. And now you look at this and you go, man, they don't have anybody. And Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, if he plays, they can't get any running room or anything like that. So that's the only issue, like the concern that I would have there. But no, 55.5 is nice to me. I actually think this is a ladder spot. I talked about it on a show earlier this week. Like, if there was a spot that I wanted to ladder up to 100, sure, you could do AJ, but Devontae's capable of doing it. Or if you just wanted to play it more conservatively, over 21.5 longest reception, I think on Devontae also looks good here. You know that he's going to get some deep opportunities. The Jags have allowed 34 pass completions, 34 of 20+ yards. Only the Baltimore Ravens have allowed more than that. They've allowed 6 of 40+. So it actually,
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
So it's there, but it also kind of plays into the ladder play because you might have just like 2 big receptions from Devontae. Not that that's everything, but 2 long receptions from Devontae put us over the century mark. I think there's a number of ways to play it, but I'm with you. I do like him this week, and I think he's a little bit undervalued here based on what he's done so far on the year.
He's not the only one. Like I said, there are a few more. I am almost hoping you talk me off one of them. This one, it may look bad at the outset. When you look at this Raiders team and you look at the pass options they have, and you actually look at the amount of targets that Jakobi Meyers has been getting. Yeah, everybody's focusing on Brock Bowers, and I understand it. He's worth all the hype because he's been delivering, especially in a year where tight ends really aren't delivering. But Jakobi Meyers, he's their only true wide receiver out there. I mean, it's him and Bowers, and they find themselves trailing in quite a lot of games. And if we're looking at 50.5, post Devontae Adams, I know he was dealing with like a nagging issue and he ended up playing through it. But now I think another week away from that, 50.5 receiving yards against this Bengals team who has been kind of thrown on all year long. As long as Aiden O'Connell's not playing, I don't know why it's in my head. I just have Minshew penciled in.
O'Connell's on he's done. He's on the IR.
Look, we know, regardless if he's winning or losing, Minshew will chuck it. Is this one that maybe I should put the brakes on? Because I know it looks like, come on, what are we doing here? Jakobi Meyers. But usually the worse a team is with the record, the more free that they play. Like, all right, you know what? Let's go out here, try to upset these Bengals. And they play loose and free, and you can really start nailing some of these.
Yeah. All right. So no Devontae Adams. Gardner Minshew should chuck it. Jakobi missed a couple of games. He missed, week 6 and 7, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, prior to that, this guy does get a lot of opportunities. Not a ton of deep balls, not a ton of stuff downfield, but Cincinnati defensively isn't great. You're talking about a touchdown plus dog on the road. I hadn't thought about Jakobi. This is not one, and I happily would if I felt differently. This isn't one that I would talk you off of. I don't have a strong read on it one way or another, but
if this was Gladiator, you're keeping your thumb to the side.
Exactly.
You don't know which direction. If you have your power glove on, your power glove thumb stays.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it looks okay. I don't have a problem.
This one may seem chalky, this next one, because he had a big week and the eyes were on him. But if you look just a little bit further, there is some reason to believe that he can sustain it and build on it. And that's L.McConkey. His is also 50.5. He obviously had the big week last week, but that's not what makes me want to take this. It's a couple of factors. Number one, he's another guy just like Jakobi Meyers, who has had, I believe, minimum 6 targets in his last 4 or 5 appearances. He wasn't converting on a bunch of them. But guess what? This team, as we unfortunately learned the hard way, isn't running the ball as effectively as they did earlier in the year. And that's led to a big uptick in Justin Herbert's passing attempts. So if he's chucking it more, then his number one target in terms of who he's been targeting this year is obviously going to have bumps in production. We saw that last week. I'm hoping that continues this week. 50.5 receiving. I always think in a couple weeks, will this be higher or lower? If that would be a great Price is Right game. Higher or lower? They're playing some music. L.McConkey, week 12, higher. I think he will be higher than 50.5, which makes me think that I kind of like this play here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of McConkey, first of all. I actually bet him before the season. I bet him most rookie receiving yards. That's not looking great. Mind you, it was astronomical odds, but I really like the kid. The thing here, though, that I'm still unsure of, and this is why I'm just kind of staying away from lad props this week.
It's okay. You don't have to say it. You don't have to say it. I know you're publicly saying, that's, looks like we got to give up on J.K. Dobbins. Take it easy, kids. See you next Halloween. And then you go on and you put on your Dobbins mixtape. I'm still in.
That's not.
What a fucking preposterous.
Yeah, I'm just like, for some reason, thinking I need to be sneaky about like jamming Dobbins props in the dark of night. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
So good.
Yeah. Just like emptying the bankroll on Dobbins. Yeah, with that like devious grin. All right, it might not seem relevant, but Quentin Johnston's back. He didn't play the last 2 weeks. And we actually saw Herbert before he got hurt, Quentin Johnston was actually kind of involved. I don't know if DJ Shark's going to come back. That to me means less than somebody than Quentin Johnston. But okay, does it matter? Maybe not. I don't know. It's just a weird spot. Hayden Hurst come back. Will Dissly should play. They're just getting healthier.
That is something, Dave. That is something. You're right. Quentin Johnston coming back is something, and we can laugh at him, but he had a lot of long catches so far this year. So
and he's been used. So I don't know.
That's it. That is one successful talk off, but there's something I just don't think I can let you talk me off in this same game. We've seen the return of N.Chubb. They gave him 11 carries week 1. They gave him 16 carries week 2. So, I mean, you're giving somebody 16 carries. That's it. there's essentially no limits. And he wasn't efficient in either game. But in my opinion, this is a guy who's only going to continue to get better every single week. This is one that I'm nearly certain, assuming he stays healthy, his numbers are going to go up on a week-by-week basis. And I'm going overs for Nick Chubb. I think my favorite is going to be the rushing attempts. I think the over 13.5, a week after getting 16, you're basically saying, what kind of game is this going to be? Who have the Chargers pulled away from this year? Who have they got up 3 scores on? Because Harbaugh, there you go. And if this is relatively close, that's a Nick Chubb rushing, over on rushing attempts. I'm taking the over on rushing. I'll tell you that right now. But this is one like Javonte last week. Let's say he remains inefficient. I mean, we saw what James Conner did to this defense 2 weeks ago. So if they can get that ground game running, yeah. I mean, his over is like 50.5, I believe. I'll double check that. It's something like that. But this 13.5 rushing attempts, he's my Javonte Williams for this week, although I do not consider him a slug whatsoever. He's just coming off of an injury. I'm going with these over on Nick Chubb props. And this is one that I'm pretty cemented on because he actually did come through for me last week as well. That was my J.K. Dobbins laughing in the middle of the night, but I was embarrassed to tell some people. It was Nick Chubb.
All right. Are you not worried about Jerome Ford potentially coming back? That's what worries me. What if he's a proxy for what we saw Kareem Hunt get out of the backfield when Hunt was in Cleveland?
The reason I'm not too worried is because they actually intentionally spelled Nick Chubb last week with, is it Deontay? Who's the other running back there? Foreman? Is it
Foreman? And yeah, Pierre Strong didn't see anything. I think Foreman did. Yeah.
I believe, especially coming off of a win, if things are working out for them, I'm just not too concerned because Ford didn't show much earlier this year. He was given every opportunity to really run away with it and be great. I think he's going back to that passing down kind of guy. Maybe every other. Also, what if Chubb just plays well? 50-something yards.
I like the 13.5. I like over 13.5. Personally, I wouldn't touch laddering rushing attempts here. That's just me.
Okay.
Even when Chubb was healthy, this was not like a 20 touch guy, a 20 carry guy. Like on rare instances, sure. But he was just like, I actually, matter of fact, Andy, I went back and looked at it from 2022, his last healthy season. Last year was a wash. He got injured in week 2 against the Steelers. Didn't matter, right? But I went back and looked at it from 2022, and he had like 60% of all rushing attempts for the Cleveland Browns, which is not bad, but it's still not, it's not like the 80% number you're looking for on a guy when you're trying to ladder rushing attempts, in my opinion.
It's true. I guess part of it is sniff on this particular game. Harbaugh has shown week after week he's willing to do these low scorings. Hey, let's run it twice and then I'll punt. Can you do that too? All right, run 2, pass 1, and then punt. They do it all game, and then it's just some 13-10 game in the fourth quarter. And if it's one of those, I like my chances. You're right. There are many games I wouldn't attempt that on. But in a game like this that I think remains close, each year is different. When you had Kareem Hunt, who was still close to his prime in that backfield, you can't really fault them for using him as much as they did. I'm very actually interested in his week 1 and 2 from last year before the injury because there was no Kareem Hunt there, and I would imagine he got a solid chunk of the work. And what we saw in week 1 coming off that gruesome injury, or first week back from the injury, 11, and then week 2, 16, in my opinion, then the sky's the limit if that's the case. And that's a bad theoretical matchup in terms of rushing attempts with Baltimore.
Well, first of all, again, I like the over 13.5. I do.
Yeah.
A lot. But I guess what I'm saying is, what if like the 16 isn't necessarily a sky's the limit? Like, what if that is the sky? What if they're like, all right, he's back. He's fine.
Then tell me, what's the sky? Is it 15? Do I got to knock off that 17? You knocked me off 19 last week. I'm willing to come down.
No. I think like your ceiling really for Chubb carries would be like 18. I think that's your. But
you see what's highlighted? I didn't highlight 19.
I hear you. There is no 18, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to go to the you died on a hurricane Artie Lang website to get the 18. I'm sure there's an 18 somewhere on some sports book. But
Probably is. All right. So Nick Chubb. Let's go.
and now
I'll lock in the 13.5 with you. I'm not going to ladder that one, but I'll lock in the 13.
no problem. This could be a big play for me, depending on who's playing quarterback. I don't know if that's baked into this price. Maybe you can help me out. We're going to an old, and by old, I mean just like a grand total of 2 weeks ago type of play here. But he had the sickness in London. Then he lost his starting quarterback in the last game. But the one real game we have with Demario Douglas, with Drake May, it was over 80 or over 90 yards receiving. Now, because of some Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events, there was the London situation where he was beyond sick. Then his starting quarterback got injured in that last game, and then it was Jakobi Brissett, who he just doesn't vibe well with. But if we're getting Drake May, I'm going right back to those ladders from a couple weeks ago. We talked about it right here, and his number was 2 higher than this. So if May's in, so am I.
Yeah, I would definitely think that this is a hedge to some extent. I don't know. I mean, what would you put it at with Jakobi Brissett? It's hard to say. May was a limited participant in practice yesterday. I don't know what it's going to be today. Actually, let's see. Yeah, limited today. He hasn't been ruled out yet. He's still in the protocol.
Here's what I'll say. This number is so ridiculously low
that you'd play it
if Jakobi Brissett can't get him to 33.5, that's pretty damn embarrassing.
So would you ladder though if it's Brissett, or would you just want this straight bet on 33.5?
It's frustrating. If Brissett was playing, I would do the minimum ladder, which is like, what is it? This is 33. I would probably take like 50? 40.5.
40.5. Okay.
No, just to get it at plus money. Don't have to invest a ton. And because it's 33, the 40.5 will actually provide a decent plus money price for him.
Well, would you bet the 33.5 and the 40.5, or just the 40?
Just the 40.5.
That's what I wanted to be sure. Yeah. Agreed.
And then just in case May's playing, I'm also going to take 60 plus. How much could you possibly have to invest on that to like win 100 or even maybe 70 plus? No. And then if I lose those, whatever. It's all a calculated sniff. I saw that Drake May, his participation level slowly ramped up. It may be one of those things where I think he clears concussion protocol over the weekend, and then all of a sudden he's playing Sunday. There's a gamble in this one. The same way there was a gamble as we've never seen Drake May play. If he does play, we know we're getting a great number here. So that's one that I'm gonna toss in there. Then let me toss the ball to you, because those are my Sunday plays. This week was a little different, so I'm not going to do my own NFL video. I wanted to run them all by you. Now, if you want to run anything that you really like or anything that caught your eye by me that maybe I can add to my ticket.
Okay, so Achane receiving yards, potential ladder here. And the reason I was looking down as you were speaking is I was trying to figure out if there were any other books where I can pull better ladder numbers on. The reason for this spot too is twofold.
I mean, his receiving yards are set like 30 something, so you really have to get to like 50.
And it should be for what it's worth. All right, that's kind of nice. So 60 plus on Caesars is plus 325. Who's getting the second most targets every game when Tua plays? I know it's only been like 2.5 games.
Not Waddle.
It's not Waddle. Exactly.
There's a reason I didn't bring him up to you. He's been kicked out. Remember the big remember when you weren't there last year and I talked about the big three? It was T. Higgins. I may have even talked to you about this once while I did a couple early season videos at Odd Shopper. It was T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. The number twos are nearly as good as number ones. We're always set in the 50s while the number ones are set in the 80s. And I always love I've kicked Jalen Waddle out of the group.
He should be kicked out. Absolutely. Also, Devontae Smith is he's not almost as good as A.J. Brown, but he's
God. He could be the number one on a team as he was that one year.
Absolutely. Yes. And yeah, that I totally agree with. A.J. Brown's
That's what I mean.
Freak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, you said it. Not Jaden Waddle. It should be. Not even that it should be. But like, would you be shocked if Jalen Waddle ends up having a big game in a good spot? No, obviously not. But it's
He
been
doesn't have
Devon.
more than like 4 catches.
Dude, I know. I'm with you. That's what I'm saying. I'm with you. That's why I'm saying I'm not surprised that Achane's receiving prop is where it is. Go look at his target share in the games that Tua has played. If you want to include the Buffalo game, because he actually saw some early game work in that, fine. But just a lot of work. And then you go and you consider that Buffalo has allowed more receiving yards to opposing running backs than any other team in the league this year. They've allowed 51 receptions, highest in the league. They've allowed 66 targets, highest in the league by 6. They've allowed 434 receiving yards, most in the league. So across the board, they've really struggled. And does it surprise you all that much? No, when you consider that they have really struggled. Like they've had Matt Milano went down. They've had it's been a position that they've had injuries to, made it more difficult to defend those pass catching backs. You can line Achane up anywhere. You can use him out of the backfield as a pass catcher. It's just this is one of those games where and you could be playing from behind. They're almost touchdown dogs. I just think he gets a ton of work. Up to 60 at plus 325 is viable. And I'm pretty sure he went for 60 in week 2 against them in the passing game, and Tua only played like a quarter and a half of that.
Should we use not the 60, but what's the 50? Is the 50 in plus money?
Yeah. By the way, 7 for 69 and a touchdown receiving against them. In week 1 with Tua there, 7 for 76. Last week against Arizona with Tua, 6 for 50 and a receiving touchdown. So there might be
that's
something.
Then we'll do 50. So
let's
go. We're gonna build a Dan parlay, or maybe build a Dave parlay. So we'll do, and trust me, I know it's scary to put a running back at 50 receiving yards, but as I hit up Dave, and I was just a week too early, they play with 2 running backs on the field, and he operated, as I've said all season, as the team's 3rd wide receiver. Let's start with the 50 plus receiving for Devon Achane. Then, since I'm a little uncomfortable with that, I'm going to add something Dave's a little uncomfortable with. On Caesars, the 17 plus rushing attempts for Nick Chubb. That's what we're doing here.
And by the way, Andy, just quickly, if you're parlaying all of this, please, be conservative with how. When I don't personally, I don't parlay ladders. Like
they know this.
Okay.
They know this.
I'm saying when you say you're uncomfortable with something like that, I want people to be sure that if I hit on my plus 325 ladder on a 60-yard, I don't want to lose that because I lost on a, plus 400 anytime touchdown in the same parlay. That's all I'm
Dave, I root for them to lose these. I do.
All right.
Do you know if your leg hit we hit our first 3 legs and Dobbins ruined it. And I was happy. Because they need to learn the parlay lessons. Think about how much money you just left on the table with those other 3 picks. That means you would have hit those picks and the alts associated with them. Because if you're taking your lone 20 and putting it on this pirate parlay, you deserve to lose. But,
you're right.
You want a stake left in the woods? Here it is for you. So we're building it. I try to curb it a little bit. I brought it down from the 60 to the 50. I hope it loses. It might win. Sometimes they do. And then the people go wild. And I'm adding the ones that I like. 17 plus rushing attempts for Nick Chubb. I think one that we both agreed on, so this could be a dual sniff right here, would be Devontae Smith. So,
let's do it.
So that's one. Should we go 70 plus for Devontae Smith?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's just, since these are all long odd spots, and we both agree on this one, why don't we just make it a 3-leg parlay for this one? Let's get the Devontae in there. You said 70?
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys are going to do this crazy stuff, and you're saying like lower unit size, this is what you do. Bet if you're doing a 4-leg parlay, right, or a round robin or something, always bet all of them as singles as well. Always. Right? Like if I'm betting if I want to bet a 4-team round robin touchdowns, I'm going to bet it by 2s. I'm going to bet it by 3s. I'm going to bet it by 4s, which is a 4-leg parlay. So that's just 1. And then I'm going to bet all of them singles. Now, obviously that can get pricey, but lower your wager sizes on the round robins and the parlay. Make your actual standard unit size be like, whatever it may be. But that's where you should be looking at the singles, right? So if it's a plus 150, I'll put 100 on each of those, but I'm not dropping 100 on the parlay and 100 on every leg of the or every piece of that round robin. You see what I mean? It's easy.
Do you know what my round robin philosophy is? It's 5 picks, take what you like, and then take the first bet that gets you into plus money on the alt. So if it was Demario Douglas, it would literally be like 38.5 receiving at like plus 110. 5 bets that get you in the plus. That round robin, if you nail 3 of them, you're guaranteed. So they're basically your best sniffs with a hair above. And if you get 3 correct, you're nicely into the profits. You don't have to wonder, wait, did the minuses hit and the blah. So I try to just do 5. This is how you can make round robins easy for people. 5 picks, just get them a hair into the plus. You're right about 3, and you're well into the price. You hit 4, you're really laughing. 5, we're never doing this show again because I'm retired.
I hit the 5 in week 2.
Dave?
On touchdowns, Andy.
I hit it last week.
Did you? On 5?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll put this screenshot in. It was a dinky. It was the N.Chubb over 49.5 rushing yards. His total was like in the mid 40s. So just a hair up. Keon Coleman over 38 receiving yards was plus money. I thought like with Cooper there would just be some better opportunities, better matchups. Cooper was the one who dudded. So I guess you can say I got lucky there. The Taysom Hill, his rushing yards were 12.5, and I took the next one up. Might have been 15.5. So that was 2 of them. And then there were 2 other plays, and I couldn't believe it. I always just assume, all right, you're going to get 2. Let's see if you can nail a 3rd.
Yeah.
And once you hit that 4th, it was so this season has been very good to me, as all the people out on the channel know, which has been nice, because as a guy who got labeled the hockey guy, I've had 1 week that had losing bets on the channel so far.
That's a big
everything's cataloged. Yeah. Let's look to continue that into week 9, and we will be back with you for week 10 next week. Dave, as always, thank you so much for coming on. Another great episode. Did the best I could. DJing back here. Alex will be back next week. If there's anything that you want to add, as everybody, I tell you all the time, please just continue to engage with these videos. When you do it, I don't know how this bastard algorithm works. They're changing it. They probably changed it last week. They probably changed it this week.
Yep.
So just click a bunch of things, share it to your like burner, your Deshaun Watson burner Twitter account, whatever it may be, to help to show your appreciation. And then you'll be rewarded by the sports betting gods. Like, oh, you did a sports bettor a favor? Now we're going to do you a favor, and Devontae Adams is going to come back into the game to hit your overs.
That's it, man. That's it. Appreciate you guys. Hit me up on Twitter, Loughran_D, LOUGHY_D. Come say hi. Love doing this show. Let's have a good, strong week 9. The parlay is outrageous, but it's doable, man. It's doable. So,
all right, I'll see you at the Bellagio next week when it's all paid
Let's
for.
go, man. Let's go.
Take it easy, man.